Welcome back to Ultiworld's live coverage of the Pro Championships. Bring you women's semifinal coverage. Phoenix, Molly Brown, two teams we've already got on the stream this weekend. Lucas Serio again joined by Kelsey Percy. Kelsey, we thought you were going to catch a flight and get your way back to Minnesota, but instead your flight delayed until 8 p.m. So we have the pleasure of having you on what's at least our 7th stream of the weekend. I mean, these are two teams we've got to see before, we know a lot about. Hopefully we can do our best with the jerseys this time, but what are you looking forward to out of this semi? What do you think might be the storylines here?
Man, adjusting to be here for the starter. Had my Uber booked, ready to take off, but more ultimate in my future. Yeah, so one of the really interesting things is when teams have had a chance to play each other and they get another look, who's going to be better at making adjustments? Who is going to, capitalize most on the knowledge they have about the other team? And this, the first round, Molly Brown really took the game in hand, had control the whole time. Phoenix. Raleigh Phoenix. I've done that twice
Understandable
now.
Confusion at some level.
Yeah, able to keep the game kind of in range. Definitely some flashes of brilliance there. But curious to see, now that we're several games in and you kind of past the heat of the day, will fatigue come into play? Who's going to fight through that?
Definitely now, and with the way the women's division was structured, of course, every team having played each other at least once, some of these pool play games wrapping up as early as the first 2 rounds of this morning. So these are two teams that have played each other earlier in the tournament. We'll bring you that score and a whole lot more throughout the course of this one. But anyways, Phoenix, Molly Brown. Molly Brown starting this one off on D. Valeria with polling responsibilities, and we're going to look at this Phoenix offensive line in just a second. Phoenix team that, again, we got to see yesterday, and because of Hurricane Ida, were hampered in their ability to get new jerseys for this tournament. So we're going to do our best and hope things were at least mostly the same as they were yesterday.
Yeah, as we're looking at the sideline, we actually have 2 15s and 2 Megan Tormies in front of us. So going to be one of those. Again, communication. If you're on Twitter, at us, definitely help us sort out those numbers. But yeah, Molly starting on defense, a place that they love to be.
Yeah, Carmen Tormey and Zoe Heck, the two that you're referring to. And we'll bring you more of that as this game is to come. Either way, it is exciting. These are the semifinals. Of course, the other women's semifinal, Portland Schwa and Boston's Brute Squad. That game coming up a little later on ESPN. Also, if you have 2 tabs open right now, you might be about to get ready to watch a mixed semifinal. That's BFG
versus
and Mixtape. Of course, it's the Seattle Cup, and we just called the other semifinal in the mixed division, so the winner of that game gets shame tomorrow. Right now, our focus is here. Earhart back to field a pole. That one going to land in, and she'll have to come all the way back to field it. Audrey Lyman back there with her in the end zone. And there's Bridget Meisner. Imagine the first of many touches we'll see from her this game. Lindsay Slew slashing across. She'll get open. Working to move it is forward. Now Earhart again. And Claire Revere. Now she'll take an early shot. This one looking for Lyman, bending left, and works out. So Phoenix again will start with the Huck hold. Pretty seamless so far from the women from North Carolina.
And Claire Revere is someone that, if you remember from that first game, someone I was saying I really wanted to see more of, that I didn't think that Raleigh had quite figured out how to utilize all of her arsenal. They're getting open and then taking the shot for the assist, but also Claire, someone who is very capable of opening up on a deep cut.
Yeah, someone you were telling me you thought was almost more impactful in the mixed division when last time you watched her when she was playing, I believe, in Seattle as well, right?
For Mixtape.
Mixtape.
For several years. Yeah, someone that Mixtape utilized just to a frightening degree. If you're the other team. If you're the other team and have to deal with it.
It's frightening. Understood.
Yeah, and so part of that is also having the throws.
Right.
You have the throws to put her out into space, let her attack, open up, use her long stride and legs.
First look at the Molly Brown O-line. Obviously, names you might remember if you've been with us all day. Johnston out there. Kawabata, Chastain, Manuela, I should say, Lisa Caithley. Cassie Swafford make up your 7. It was exciting. I mean, it really felt like the story of the game we called that had Schwa and Molly Brown in it was that it felt like every time Molly Brown's offense was on the field, for the most part, they did what they had to. They really took care of business, and they left it to their defense to win the long points too. So if they can execute with that same level of efficiency, you imagine this game will go in favor of Molly Brown as we get an early bid.
Yeah, that over the hands of the intended target, Manuela, but
yeah, Megan Cousins there playing Superwoman, able to keep that one off the turf. And now Swafford looking for Chastain. She lays out in the end zone. Unbelievable.
And Claire Chastain, someone that saw a lot of reps on the D-line, actually, but someone who's so capable of playing both ways.
Yeah, it just feels like it's a ridiculous thing every time she leaves her feet like that, but it's almost never in doubt. It like feels scripted, predictable. It's just so comfortable for her to leave the ground like that.
Such an extension of her style of play.
Yeah. Another look at this
Good
initial save. Yeah, Megan Cousins there.
Oh, yeah.
Wow, another probably top 10 for the plays we've seen on stream all weekend long. That was sick. More of that, please.
I think she'll give it to you, too.
Find out.
Yeah, so maybe unnecessarily exciting point for Molly to open up.
Probably more exciting than they wanted, but they all count for one. And now seems like Chastain out there, maybe helping out decide matchups for this Phoenix offensive line that you're getting to look at.
Yeah, Chastain stepping out of the back of the end zone, so very much communicating matchups there. And Valeria Cardenas will again pull. And just a soaring pull.
Right, that pull. I mean,
may go out the back.
Seems like Phoenix electing to play it. We'll get things started with Meisner and sort of a spread stack. They're going to flood to open up Sue near us. She'll work to move Nelson out of the way before getting it right back and a power cut. Now Sue had a winner to go deep, but cut from Youngst was a little too early. And it's Meisner now. She had Backus going, didn't want her. And seems like discussion on the field will bring this to a halt. First touch for Ella Youngst. Someone that's just so lethal in the end zone for Phoenix as well. A long throw, won't find anyone. It'll find the turf. First break chance comes on the second defensive point for Molly Brown. And this time, Valeria letting Taggart pick up.
Yeah, so something I really wanted to see from Molly was I thought their defense was phenomenal, but their defensive efficiency, once they got the disc, could improve.
Definitely.
And so that is something that I will be watching very closely this game to see if they, now several further games into this tournament, can start to fine-tune that and really execute at a higher level that they will need if they want to make it to that semifinal and final on the Nationals.
Disc was with Meg Henderson, but it'll find its way back to Valeria. And now Nelson coming under.
It looks like Katie Backus thought about leaving her feet, didn't quite pull the trigger.
Ronnie Eater on the near side, of course, she had a massive pool play game that we streamed against Schwa, getting a number of blocks in that one, and maybe a handful. Larry up line, she's got Nelson going. She'll take her that way, and the bid just comes up short, so Ari Nelson taken to the skies early as well.
Yeah, all pretty uncontested force side, as you said, kind of just cramming it up the line. And again, maybe just too much momentum going into Valeria's throw there. Barely overthrown.
And again, these same third shots are really difficult, even though they don't seem like they're that far. They're not necessarily easy to complete. And Revere's throw just swatted down. Valeria making absolutely sure of that one. Wow. Claire Revere's huck had absolutely no chance. And now Taggart to get things started. Here's Ronnie Eater. And she'll continue for Valeria to the far side, but it's too far. And so this is becoming the first long point of the game. Disc back in the hands of Raleigh.
And the Mali defense still in a good position in terms of pressure. Raleigh all the way over on the sideline in their end zone, but able to center it, get it out.
Meisner finds Youngson around a Revere. And running through there, Claire McKeever unable to break up the pass intended for Lindsay Sue. And now already into the end zone is Raleigh. Two more breaks will get Raleigh towards their end zone, but this one just popping over the head of Katie Bacchus. Disc back in the hands of Molly Brown. Another chance to break.
Yeah, some
Eder taking off. Nelson Wanninger holding off Younks, but that was over her head, and Sue there to make sure.
So that was a matchup I actually was about to ask you about. If you liked that, so huge height differential, but Younks with a lot of experience. And Ronnie Eder, obviously a very impactful, powerful player. Kind of curious what you thought of that matchup.
Get to that in just a second. As this throw saved on the near side. Revere keeping that in bounds. She'll throw inside, coming in hot to Meisner, but no matter. Hat falls off, keeps the disc, and that one through the hands of Sue, and now again, this point just doesn't seem like it wants to be over. Taggart picking up. She paused for a second, thought she might call a timeout, but she won't. Valeria unwinds. This one floating and caught.
Yeah, out into space.
Claire McKeever, no problems to haul that one in. The first break of the game does come to Molly Brown. Back to what you were saying. I think it's a really interesting matchup, Ronnie Eder. I think that Youngst has a speed advantage there, but Ronnie Eder obviously size advantage, and if quite a bit taller, and if they want to shoot deep to Ellie Youngst, they're going to have to be really perfect. They can't float them out at all because
potentially an equalizing effect there.
Right, exactly. And so I think that gives Youngst some advantages, like in the red zone, or if she wants to come under, it will. She might have the ability to do that. However, that's kind of on her teammates and the way they utilize her as an offensive weapon to negate the effectiveness of her defender.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so Molly there able to punch it in, multiple opportunities. And definitely, as always, shoot who's going to shoot. Valeria liking her matchup deep. Cutter, who had been in the deep space, I think come back and then just attacking again once she saw who had the disc.
Sometimes as a cutter, right, you kind of know who your throwers are and your eyes begin to light up when you see who gets the disc and they're just immediately taken off. Sometimes, right, as I was just saying, as a cutter, you kind of know your throwers on the team, your throwers on your line, and when you see someone get the disc in particular, you're looking to cut deep for them because you know they'll throw it to you. Everyone loves to go deep. So Phoenix is going to take a quick timeout. I think they're going to have a chance to talk this over, give themselves some rest. I mean, a really long weekend for what's been a fairly undermanned team because of a number of injuries all weekend long, and you can imagine end of day two, that's probably only exacerbated at this point.
Well, and we said a number of injuries going into before this tournament. I think they said 6 ACL injuries, a number of others, and then 1 or 2 hard hits against kind of sloppy field conditions start off the morning games in particular. And so when you're already thin, just has that much more of an impact. Having to get a little bit of creative maybe with some of their personnel choices, and not really getting to test the depth of their team as much versus this Molly Brown home crew who's able to field a full roster.
Yeah, definitely. I think too, and I don't know how much this factors from a team from North Carolina. I mean, I'm sure they're used to it at some amount, but this is just hotter than it's been any other time this weekend. At least it feels that way to me.
Oh, very much so.
Yeah, so conditions changing a little bit, really back to a situation where there feels like there's almost no palpable wind.
And in all fairness, also a dry heat, which is someone who's originally from Tennessee. North Carolina, a lot of that heat plus humidity, but you don't get dehydrated quite as quickly as you do here in Colorado. So you're fighting the elevation, you're fighting the dehydration. Again, we've talked about the sun being a little stronger. All of that can add up and can affect your decision, definitely affect your performance on a day two.
Interesting. I never really thought about that, but it makes a lot of sense when you say it. Long flick ball from Valeria will drift out of bounds. Phoenix teammates, Don Colton, trying to do her best to help her team play that quickly, but seems like either way, Molly Brown's going to have a chance to set up something if that's what they wanted to do. And it looks like it is some type of trap zone.
Yeah, curious to see what look we see from them.
Rachel Wilmoth there on the sideline, marking responsibilities, working against Meisner.
Definitely a zone pushing the disc back and seeing what they can take away. So I think baiting the over-the-top throw very much. Forced back again.
And their fire call is iceberg, that's what they're saying. Maybe the point is supposed to be counterintuitive. Or maybe they're just flexing into a different look. Time will tell. Ideally, Lyman, she'll find Youngst. And here on the near side, still in possession, Phoenix undeterred by any type of defense they've seen so far. Low throw, caught and held onto by Earhart.
Yeah, impressive snag.
Really is. And Meisner always getting open for them. Sue in the red zone. A throw away, and that one too far for Youngst. So another break chance falls the way of Molly Brown.
Yeah, and I think the backhand mark very effective there for Molly. Just changing up, cutters maybe not adjusting, continuing to cut to that break side instead of attacking the force.
Taggart to get this possession started. Initiate with Sam Pelletier. And Pelletier coming back to it, so she will get her touch. Valeria working to get open in small spaces. Ring against Katie Bacchus. And a long swing will switch field completely for Megan Ives. And now Rachel Wilmoth. And she'll lead this one to the end zone. And it's McKeever again.
One-handed snag.
Second break of the game coming to Molly Brown via Claire McKeever. Molly up 3-1.
Yeah, so I really liked Molly's choice there to throw the roller, throw the zone, not a ton of wind, but still a chance for them to run a different look, get some reps on that, change it up, and maybe throw Raleigh even further out of their stride.
See how Phoenix responds here. See who takes the line. Seems like we might get our first look at Austin Peruka. Someone that we saw play yesterday. Don Colton on the field along with Cleo Phillips, highly touted high school player in the Triangle area. Of course, Triangle's so interesting. They have pretty much a high school team that travels and competes in college competitions, the Triangle Taurus. I mean, we've seen them take down and play at a really high level against a number of college teams pretty recently. I mean, we've seen them play at blanking on tournament names. It'll come back to me, I'm sure. Point is.
Game 7. Game
right,
7.
Something like that. Point is, no shortage of high school talent coming out of North Carolina. Commonwealth Cup. That was the tournament I was thinking of.
There we go. Yeah, no, so, and the Triangle area, an area that has a very, I would say, developed leadership focus in, very, very focused leadership program in developing young talent and creating those high school programs, very competitive YCC programs out of that. But you've mentioned pipelines in previous games. Raleigh definitely one of those areas that has pipelines for both male and female players to get up to this elite level.
And not even just like a pipeline in the sense of like players play here and they play here, but starting at the high school and the middle school level in sort of the Triangle in North Carolina, they begin to coach the same types of systems, the same type of offense, the same kinds of zones, defensive looks, and they're able to just funnel players up into their college systems, UNC, NC State, UNC Wilmington, etc.
Very
and then from
competitive
there,
teams.
Right, they can put players into semi-pro and high-level club like we're seeing today. Peruka on the near side. And now with Colton further away from us. Actually, that's Mary Rippey, excuse me. And this one almost will find Dawn Colton in the end zone, so she ends up picking up the goal anyways. North Carolina able to walk this one into the end zone.
Yeah, and Raleigh looking very comfortable in that vert stack. Looked like for a second they might strand just one handler back a little bit too deep. They were a little bit too deep, but able to initiate some handler movement and attack the end zone space.
And something that we saw Molly Brown really successful with against Schwa on defense. I mean, Schwa struggled with that a lot. It felt like there were a lot of times when the Schwa handlers expressed just outward frustration to their teammates, felt like they were left behind. So maybe something that's a theme more from the team they're playing against than something the team is doing to themselves.
Interesting perspective. We'll definitely see. It's something that we have seen very much as a theme is the higher level of focus in the first half, and the teams, whether or not teams were able to pull away, is whether both teams were able to stay engaged, stay focused, keep that high energy level into the second half.
Of course, winner of this game booking a ticket to the finals tomorrow on ESPN.
And I'll say the advantage of the 3-day tournament there is not needing to conserve energy, able to really pour it in. They will get a full night's rest and be able to come out fresh tomorrow.
And even more so for Raleigh Brown being the hometown team. I mean, I understand unless the player is doing something to hang out that we don't know about, which would be pretty cool if they were. But I think otherwise most of them will head back to their residences in the Colorado area, in and around Denver, and
sleep in their own beds.
Yeah, sleep at home tonight. Always nice when you have a chance to do that. Pull from Grace Connerly out of bounds. So Alika Johnston marks this one up to the brick. And a side stack to initiate from Raleigh Brown right in front of us. Gonna look at this in a second. Seems like they've got Knee Win isolated. Maybe Megan Cousins as well. Swafford clearing out to create space for Chastain, and Johnson will break the mark.
Did look like it was a little bit more of a flood play where Chastain was actually the isolation, but definitely Lynn drawing all the attention.
High throw off the hands of Lynn. And so I think first break chance for Raleigh to get things started quickly.
Murphy with the snag.
Yeah, great catch. We saw her almost have an incredible layout D yesterday against Brute Squad too, but called back on a strip. Connerly and now Cleo Phillips as well. They'll exchange the Frisbee in the backfield a few times. Things start to slow down a little bit downfield for North Carolina.
Yeah, Raleigh looking a little deep right now. And Molly just really able to clamp on defense.
Tormey downfield. Finds an open receiver, and one more. It's Connerly again. And continuing to flow here. Everything in the backfield so far, and eventually Lisa Caithley's handler reset defense, forcing a turnover.
And I was about to say Raleigh looking so patient with the disc, but actually the lefty backhand just misexecuted.
Caithley now with the disc. Inside, fine Chastain. Looking long. Didn't have a cut she wanted, so high break around to Manuela. And Johnston.
Something else we talked about is one of the really impressive things is Molly's offense ability to get the disc back.
Yeah, they've had excellent O-line defense. A great throw there. Blade from Caithley to the far side for Cousins. Molly Brown able to hold and maintain their advantage. They're up 4-2.
Yeah, so definitely one of Molly's strengths that they have shown throughout this tournament. Again, talking about kind of those four quadrants or 4 areas of performance. And again, their offense just looking so strong in terms of if the disc is turned, getting it back and able to then punch it in without too much further effort, keeping the point as short as reasonably possible. But did like some of the possession there. Raleigh really able to make Molly work much harder for that point than they have in previous ones.
Yeah, you and I have talked about it too. When the long points add up, I don't think anyone can disagree with that. So as an offense, right, get on, score, get off, and
yeah, and that would be huge for Raleigh if they're able to flip the script and instead make Molly work harder in this first half. Definitely something that paid off for Molly in their previous matchup.
Yeah, we've seen a couple times that Raleigh's found a number of success with deep look, so maybe something we'll pull out here. Right now they're down 4-2, a couple of breaks. Meisner back deep to field this one.
So Valeria's pulls have just been fantastic. They keep their inbounds, but all the way to the back of the end zone, and really causing Raleigh to fight uphill.
Difference maker for sure. Let's throw high. Wilmoth picked that off. She'll make sure. She has Nelson. A long throw up line. Inbounds. Sue on the mark. All four side so far.
All four side, all this 5 yards right here by the sideline.
Narmois. This one now a step outside in the hands of Melissa Devlin. Her break off the line. Finds Nelson. And it's Valeria. And back to that front cone into the end zone. Extremely clean D-line offense. Ends in the hands of Pele. That's Samantha Pelletier.
Molly just looking relentless.
Yeah, like a hot knife through butter so far. And maybe the heat, the travel, and the hurricane, and the practices, and the injury is starting to add up for Phoenix.
Yeah, so it will be one of those of, we've talked about mental toughness, but again, there are physical limitations. If you are just playing more points, don't have the depth to reach into, again, you can hit that wall. Known for athletes in marathons and triathlons bonking, where you do, now some of that is more of just, you know, blood sugar of what are you fueling your system with, but it's hard to fight a buildup of lactic acid if you are just exerting more than the other team.
Yeah, I think it's just, us too, I mean, you and I have talked about it a bit as well. It's just, tournaments are difficult. It's a difficult structure. You have to play this much of anything over the course of a weekend. You know, this is both, I want to say, game 6 for these teams. Of course, they played everyone in their pools, and there's 6 teams in their pools. There's 5 right there, and now semifinals make 6, and I think the teams probably have an option for a 7th, whether they're playing for 1st or 3rd after this as well. Of course, 1st place and 3rd place game, I imagine, taking place tomorrow. Although we're hearing from pony coach Brian Jones, it seems like some teams opting to play those games today so that they can have another day of their holiday weekend to enjoy.
Yeah, makes sense to me. I will say silver lining here for Raleigh. Yes, they're having to, you know, really fight through kind of maybe these personnel shortages, but finding their way all the way up into the semis, shot out into space.
Yeah, looking for Sue, and it works out. So McKeever just gliding into open space, taking it under from Earhart, turning the other way and placing that in the end zone.
So I think Revere really taking advantage of Molly not wanting to allow her the deep space by gaining yardage under and then making herself valuable for the assist.
Yeah, so again, a lot of four-side action. I mean, besides that one flashy defensive set that we saw Molly Brown sort of run that Lady pole to the sideline and run.
Trap, yeah.
Yeah, it hasn't felt like there's been a lot of defensive pressure anyways. It feels like a lot of these turns coming unforced.
I'm going to mull on that one for a second.
Just me making a statement and putting myself out there to be wrong. So gotten used to, got to kind of accept that at some level.
I will say it doesn't feel like Molly feels intimidated whatsoever by Raleigh. So I think working, but I think Molly very much focusing on their own game. Again, what is Raleigh looking for? Is Molly able to take that away? Or are they just looking to execute their own reps? I do think that they've done a pretty good job of putting some more pressure, putting, you know, some lateral and backfield pressure on the handle sets. But, I mean, Raleigh not lacking for athleticism and speed, so able to attack spaces and throws find them in those spaces.
I think too, and not just the sleeping in your own bed thing, but the altitude, everything we talked about, right? Just the hometown team, and with that, something that comes with it. So I think intimidation very much on their home turf is Molly Brown. Manuela, she'll find Swafford, and that one over the head of Chastain and backed away. So first block of the game for Mary Rippey, and Cleo Phillips catch her continuation, and now Austin Peruka moving this disc upfield. Rippey in the backfield, around for Fagan.
And Rippey's someone, very physical, athletic player. And a dive there.
Massive layout block from Pakaithe on the far side. I mean, she's been sort of the highlight for this O-line's defense. Getting them to just go away a few times, and Pakaithe, whether it's her reset defense or getting a physical layout block, has done a lot to get it back for him.
Yeah, exactly, earning it back.
Inside from Johnston, find Chastain, Pakaithe taking off. Fagan going with her. That's a fun matchup to watch for sure. Swafford fighting in the backfield. Chastain rewarding that effort. And now knee win on the near side. someone we saw that was a goal machine this morning. Caithley, the mark from Fagan flashing the lane just enough to avoid the huck to Kawabata. And now all the way around, Molly Brown to the far side. They will take a shot. This one to the end zone, and it works out. So it is Rena Kawabata in the end zone. It is a hold for Molly Brown, and Molly Brown maintained their advantage up 5-3.
Yeah, Molly's so effective when they are attacking that break side. No, and again, just their personnel, their offensive line able to earn it back. And not for a lack of pressure from Raleigh. You know, Raleigh really leveraging their athletic players, some of their young players, and players that have consistently been able to put up that pressure. Really, I don't know, I would love to see Raleigh just execute more once they get the turn. You know, they've definitely had some opportunities there.
That position looked really good too for a second. I feel like they had movement there, and once they got that turnover, they were moving as fast, it just kind of fell apart.
Yeah.
Excellent block.
Well, but Caithley's so rangy. I mean, just massive wingspan, not afraid to lay out. Really takes up more space than you sometimes maybe think that she would, but she gets there.
Phoenix back out on the field.
Yeah, so definitely showing some fire here.
Energy battle very much at play here in what's round 7 of the tournament for these teams. Round 6. 6 playing, but 7 rounds, and at least that many for us as well. Revere back to field.
Big, gorgeous pull. And I will say, I do think one of the difference makers has been the depth and height of these pulls from Molly.
Sideline intensity just coming up an extra notch as Pelletier chasing McKeever around. Or Revere, I should say. Getting those two confused, my bad. Things beginning to slow down for Phoenix, it looks like, but Bridget Meisner has pretty much been open every time they've needed her. And a nice Oyo break will find Earhart on the far side. Working in the reset space. And again, coming across the triangle way, Earhart. And now Claire Revere. Back is taking a shot, looking for Earhart. This one's gonna hang, enough space.
Oh, it just bobbled.
Space was there, but just out of her fingertips. Really difficult, probably worried more about her feet than the disc at some level, and sometimes that's just gonna happen.
And I think the Molly defender thought she was clearing, but she made some eye contact, kept going. Not a bad shot.
Not at all, especially to Earhart. I feel like 9 times out of 10, the disc she catches.
But unfortunately, the end result is Molly Brown with the disc.
Yep. Nelson finds Ives, and now Wilmoth on the far side. Kiever fighting for space and finds what she needs. She's got Pelletier further down the field. All 4 sides so far. Cut timing has been excellent, Molly Brown.
Yeah, a little bit of stagnation right now.
Yeah, a number of cutters circling this disc, finding Valeria.
And I think, again, the preference of this defense when they're playing offense to sit almost too deep for me. You've got a big gun like Valeria behind the disc. Pull your stack under, give her space to throw into. But again, look how deep they are, all the way in the back of the end zone almost.
Yeah, and just physically slowing down a little too, it seems like.
And that might be fatigue.
Definitely. Nelson and Valeria are the two that have seen the lion's share of the touches so far this possession. Valeria going to go with the hammer, looking for Pelletier, but knocked away.
Yeah, and that might have been a frustration throw there. Again, just very few options. Quite frankly, if I'm in her place with the disc in my hands, I'm going to show me something. I need you to move. I need you to adjust, bring in the stack. Just maybe looking for that little bit more direction, but yeah, not under executing for sure.
Credit to Claire Revere as well. That was a ridiculous block on that hammer, and a timeout be called by Phoenix. Their second of the half.
Yeah.
Molly still up 6-3.
Yeah, so pros and cons. I like that Molly is keeping the Raleigh offense out on the field. Again, that's one of the ways that a defense can win, is just the fatigue. Again, we talked about the first half in their last matchup. Molly really keeping Raleigh on the field for large amounts of time, and that fatigue was very evident in the second half. But I want to see higher execution from this Molly Brown defense when they have the disc in their hands. And I think a lot of that is, again, some fatigue, but maybe process of, do they have a designated initiation cutter? You know, are they maybe better off in an H-stack, just different space, pulling their stack under, creating those spaces for Valeria to attack and throw into?
Right.
Am I ranting?
Not at all.
I'm feeling pretty passionate about it.
You're spot on.
You know, and maybe that's a mix-up of personnel. You know, if you get into another comfortable spot, do you start to cross over some of your offense? Your offense obviously clicking very well, but if you're able to execute once you get the turn as a defense, close pressure there. Again, Molly, against high-level teams, is going to need to punch those in.
Meisner to the far side for Youngst. A really nice up line for them to put Meisner into power position, but graciously find Revere. Revere going to shoot for Sue again, and that connection works out. Excellent shot there from Claire Revere. Will find Lindsay Sue in the end zone. Sue's been such a presence for really both the games we've watched, throwing, going, catching goals as well. It's just like so impressive that regardless of how well the team's doing in the field, and not that the team is playing bad, but she's just her ability to contribute has just always been at a really high level.
Yeah, she and Revere really clicking here. I think starting to build some chemistry and timing. I do think that Molly is forcing Revere under. I think that's a deliberate choice. But able to, you know, take the smooth shot, put some touch on her throws, and just find Sue in space.
Got to find a way to make it pay, right? I mean, they force you to do something, say, that's fine, I'm going to make you hurt some other way. Back within 10 points played so far, and what are your impressions of the semifinal?
Definitely feeling a little bit more balanced, a little bit closer maybe than the previous game. That Molly just felt a little bit more in control, and I do think a part of that is on the defensive line. I do agree with you at this point. I do think that Molly is not taking as much away. I don't think they are able to exert quite as much pressure. And I'm not sure if that is just adjustments that Raleigh has made to their defense, or if that's, personnel matchups. They're maybe changing their matchups. Be interested to continue looking at that.
Well, with Stanley to pull. Yeah, I think you're right. It's hard to tell at this point, right? What are teams focusing on? Again, we talked to David Allison. We talked about this a bit yesterday, but he's really more concerned that his team plays the way he wants to play, and he wants his team to play, than necessarily what ends up on the scoreboard at the end of matches this weekend. Caithley and Fagan again matched up on the near side. Round break for Manuela.
Right now, the Molly offensive machine just churning and burning, but a miscue there.
Yeah, that one snatched away by Murphy. And Phoenix off to the races. They're going to take a shot looking for Cleo Phillips, and all the speed she has, that one's still too far, and kind of a reversal of what we've seen earlier. We've seen a lot of divine offensive patience, and that time with some urgency, but not the result they wanted.
Yeah, and she definitely had the yards and separation, still a same third throw. But maybe the adrenaline factoring in of the excitement of having gotten the turn.
Oh.
Yeah, some good pressure there from Stylen.
Yeah, Stylen honing in on that one, but that was too perfect. And
Peruka.
Yeah, staying in the lane just long enough to create a turnover. She'll deal for Stanley, and now Raleigh on the doorstep of their first break. Murphy around, and back to Peruka.
Yeah, finds Peruka in the corner. Sorry to overstep you there.
No, you're fine at all. No worries. Peruka with her bookends and the first break of this game, and let's see if it's something that can sort of derive some energy for Phoenix.
Oh, absolutely. And quite frankly, that's something that we saw from Peruka. Had a beautiful layout D that did get called back, some contact called in the previous game. And this one instead, the D and the award.
We went home and watched that one last night a few times on the stream. We were trying to figure out, was that Austin Peruka layout D against Brute Squad clean? And I think a lot of us were hedging towards the answer of that question being yes.
Yeah, so definitely a fun one to watch. And contact always a always a conversation, always a discussion. I think as in general, the athleticism in the sport, the quality of athletes that are finding their way into the sport of ultimate, the increase of training regimes, agility training, the increase of access to physical therapy and being able to rehab through injuries, allowing players to push themselves harder, all raising the bar. And something that we're seeing in that is also needing to respond with safety, with keeping players safe as they are committing more and more effort into the play of ultimate.
Definitely. Molly Brown taking a quick timeout, maybe to have a conversation. Check in after that break, make sure that everyone's on the same page. And as much as we've talked about how it feels like Phoenix, I don't want to say wasn't in this one, but definitely was a lower energy team for the better part of the first half. They're within one after that break. I mean, really, like, what can you say? They've played so well. They've won the long points, and they have really played into their depth really well. David Ellison telling us as well. I mean, you just have to play everyone. I mean, there's no, per se, bottom of the roster. Everyone that's going to come this weekend is going to get minutes, is going to get touches, and it's really more on who steps up.
Well, and that was something that I was starting to line into, of the silver lining of the intention being to play their full depth.
Right.
The intention being, to get reps. And playing their process, again, playing their game versus playing Molly's.
And another drop, an unforced miscue.
Very unusual from Manuela.
Back in the hands of Raleigh. Here's Fagan, marked by Pacafley. That Mark forcing that throw high and swatted out of bounds.
A frustrating turn for Raleigh.
Definitely, and credit to the mark on that one. Pacafley still managing to create turnovers for Molly Brown's O-line after they turn the disc. Up line for Johnston. Throw coming in hot, but she handles it, and that one behind Pacafley.
The one-handed stag. Arrows it in.
Great catch there. And now quickly into the red zone. Again, Swafford, everything they've needed her to do, she's been able to answer. I mean, both these teams have a player like that. And that one taken away by Murphy, her second block of this half. And her and Colton will catch real quick. Able to advance an extra few yards.
Yeah, Murphy looking like she's got legs.
Yeah, up line. Energized, but there's a chance for Phoenix to pull level here. Murphy again, all over the field, and that throw low but dug out by Stanland, and now Peruka on the far side. All Murphy so far, and her throw into the end zone for Fagan, ruled not in by the observer.
They are on the doorstep. This could be a huge point for Raleigh.
Stanland snaking her way into the end zone, but again, Murphy dropping back into the reset space, and her throw high, caught by Colton.
Just fingertips.
Raleigh again steps away, and that went too far for Peruka. Wow, again, another disappointing D-line O possession. And Phoenix will have to play 70 yards of defense, assuming they can't generate a turn.
Yeah, so Molly's offense getting another look, but for the first time, not one that they necessarily earned. That just an execution miscue. There's some good pressure. Another turn.
Yeah, the second you say that. And Murphy this time will shoot to the end zone, and that one works out. Second break, both caught by Peruka. Another break for Phoenix. This game is tied at 6s early or late in this first half of this semifinal.
Was not even close. The game that you expected?
No. I mean, I remember talking to someone before this game saying, I really think this is Molly Brown's game to win, and I don't think that part of it's changed, but I'm really stunned and so impressed by the level of effort from this Phoenix team, playing their whole roster deep, everyone battling, and just at times, Molly Brown's look slow. They've kind of had some energy lulls, and Phoenix has made the most of it, able to generate turns and capitalize.
Yeah, very much so.
Really not much else you could ask for the team.
Yeah, and seeing a little bit that in the body language of Molly Brown now, an opportunity for them to really test their mental toughness, test their ability to respond. This is the first time they've been in this close situation with Raleigh, particularly here as we are approaching the halftime.
And this feels like their own doing at some level. I mean, like some of the turnovers we've seen them capitalize on are throws, even if they were per se blocked. I mean, there hasn't been a tremendous amount of defensive pressure. I don't know if I could say that. Phoenix has played some really good D. They have some excellent match defenders as well. But it's just feels like at any point Molly Brown could maybe click in and go to another level like we saw them do this morning and really take care of business against Schwab. But
I agree. I do think their offense in particular has another gear. And as you know, I fully believe their defense has several other gears that they can go into in terms of execution and performance.
But we haven't seen that. I mean, our job is just to say what happens on the field. And again, misfielding the pole. Luka Johnston out to start, and it looks like putting Zoe Hecht out there, another zone set for Raleigh. Seems like they've kind of used Zoe Hecht on special teams so far in the front of that zone. Chastain's throw back to the middle.
And Allison did say that that was something that they had kind of leaned into, was the benefit of Raleigh getting those extra touches, that extra chemistry, practice time as Radiants. So many players crossing over from that professional team.
Sidelines really coming alive for Phoenix. You can hear Coach Alan Laviolette just to our right, barking orders on the near side and really encouraging his team to go on. But short passes from Kawabata, Johnston, Chastain, Wynn, moving this disc up in the middle of the field, and now in a position where you imagine Raleigh's going to have to call out of it pretty soon. But they haven't yet. Inside from Chastain is perfect. And everything going Molly Brown's way. And this is the patience of their offense that we were expecting to see. But picked off the second I say that again. Murphy, energizer this half, has really added everything to this D-line for Phoenix. And they have a chance to go up by 1 and lead headed into halftime. Well, not quite halftime, but just in a few minutes away.
And at this point, Phoenix does not have a timeout. They do not have one to call. But do they have the legs to dig this one out? This is a huge possession right now for Raleigh.
Yeah, it really can't be overstated. Depends what they do with it.
Murphy just winning her matchup all over the place.
Feeling the call of her teammates, her need to perform, and so far she's done a great job of that. Grace Connolly with the disc in front of us, and a call will bring this to a halt.
If I'm Raleigh, I clear out, I isolate Murphy, and I let her run.
Yeah, say the same thing about Sue, her obviously crossing over for a D point as well. And this is a special teams unit, right? This is a line they called out to run a zone. They got their turn, and now they have to execute with the players in the field, which they're definitely more than capable of doing. Mark there from Johnston, making sure Murphy couldn't get her break off, but giving up something else. Meisner crossing over as well, someone that's almost exclusively an offensive player.
So they're finding space.
Yeah, had Connolly up line for a second, thought better of it. A few Molly Brown defenders crouching into that space, but they're going to go the other way and knocked away by Wynn.
Oh!
And then in and out of the hands.
Almost with the save, but just off the fingertips.
Yeah, Carmen Tormey unable to catch the deflection after the block. And what felt like another unbelievably patient D-line offensive possession, all for naught, but
look at the body language. Molly forced to take the timeout, their offense thoroughly exhausted.
Yeah.
And so this should be the last timeout for Molly as well. No more reserves. If this gets any sloppier, they're just going to have to grind it out.
Yeah, it's been sort of a slow-moving first half, but no lack of action. Do you think Raleigh coaching staff, they call zone and they come out in that to start out of this timeout, or do you think they go right to match?
Ooh, that's a tough call. I think part of that is you look at your players, you ask them, like, where are your legs? Because they're in this end zone space. If they can clamp person defense, I'm showing my age here, people. Person defense can be so effective. You know, the Molly offense really capable of cutting through a zone. But with Molly showing a little bit of their fatigue, even getting this breath, zone could really gum up the works and frustrate them even more. That's a toss-up. Again, I think, who are your players? Who do you have in the field? How are they feeling? And that's how you make the call.
So we'll let you know in just a second. The looks of it, I'm going to say it ain't so. Looks like it will be person coming out of the interval.
Yeah, they are suiting Sue a little bit in the deep space, though, spaced off of Picathley on that far side.
Free safety type deal. Throw. Wynn able to survive the ground contact, make the pancake. Marked by Hecht on the near side. High stall situation, but they get out of it. And a pick call downfield.
Yeah, Molly cutting lane's looking a little bit of a mess right now. Just some of their timing off.
Interesting too to see Taggart cross over here. She's the one with the disc. for Molly Brown on the near side. I mean, someone that is always kind of a defensive engine for this team, especially in the game we saw this morning. Speaking of engines, Alika Johnston, no lack of spring in her step, no matter what round it is. Pelletier will find win. And now Taggart again.
Chastain coming back around the disc. And she's a good person in a high-stress situation to have the disc in her hands.
Chastain up line, and she'll end the point. But
locks it in for Molly.
What I was about to say is that even though they didn't come out in zone, it did feel like their person defense from Raleigh was generating a lot of pressure. I mean, it slowed them down, I think, to a certain level, and that's not something I don't know if we've been able to say for other points that Phoenix has played person earlier in this game. I mean, they looked impassioned. Like, they looked like they're really out there gunning for it. And I think now, after getting those couple breaks, or just a single break? No, 2 breaks. Either way, both caught by Peruka. And funny, because the other 2 breaks were both caught by McKeever. You could see it just in the effort of the players in the field. They really believe they have a chance to win this game. And I mean, who's to say they don't?
Yeah, I would agree with that. Interesting also, so Sue now going both ways, coming back out on defense. And that will be, yeah, interesting to see if her endurance is able to hold up.
It's not game 1, right, where you find out how hard people worked in the offseason. It's game 6, game 7.
Oh, 100% on board with that.
maybe we're game 4 or 5, and it's all adrenaline at this point.
We'll see if the cameras switch over, but a very tall line out there for Molly on defense.
Yeah, a handful of players you haven't had a chance to see. Robert Fassa-Carmen saw her
getting a look at it now.
Yeah, in the pool play game earlier today. Valeria, another unreal pull. This has just been such an impressive part of her game, and something that, right, I mean, we keep bringing it up. Pulls is a controllable, and the difference that they can make.
A field position, where you start as an offense.
You could go as far as to say is pulling and pull coverage is the reason that Rhino lost truck stop earlier in the semifinal we called earlier today.
I would 100% be on board with that.
Lyman up line. And now Youngst. Meisner in the backfield. And Lyman obliges to go upfield. This time they're going to take a shot. And that one works out perfectly. Wow. Really impressive shot to Katie Backus. 7-7. And now the point to take half.
Yeah, strong response from Raleigh there. Efficiency, just not giving Molly another chance.
Their O-line got it done. On the field, off the field. And now they have a chance to, they know they have a 10-minute break after this point, regardless of who scores. So they have a chance to load up D-line, get a break, and then come out in the second half and potentially win this game.
Yeah, if I'm Raleigh, I'm excited. You know, they are gunning for it. They've got the personnel to really challenge Molly. But Molly has shown the capability of their offensive line. So, yeah, we've got a fight on our hands.
Maybe you'll remember, I'm struggling to find the words. Which team started the game on offense?
Oh, you had to ask. I do. Molly started on defense, I think.
Wow.
I believe I made a comment about them liking to start on defense. They like the aggression and starting out that way. I'm pretty sure Valeria started with the pull.
So the reason I ask is because if Raleigh breaks here and they start the next half on 0, I mean, they have a chance to go up 9-7.
Potential huge advantage there.
Of course, a lot of caveats between now and then, and plus 10-minute intervals, so a lot of things can happen. But I imagine there's this D-line they're looking to load up.
Yeah, I do think Molly will be starting on 0 in the second half.
Effort from Murphy, getting down there first. Match up with handlers. And immediately calling out of their set, whatever they call it, it's Coach Laviolette. So far, quickly, Megan Cousins, Molly Brown over half field. Alika Johnston. And she'll find Chastain, but contested by Colton.
Chastain just so strong in the air.
Yeah. And it almost felt like Manuela was getting a layout D on the Raleigh player, but the Raleigh player was just better positioned. Strange turnover. When that break chance comes, Lyman to pick up, and she'll send it for Fagan.
It looked like Manuela thought she was maybe too close and was starting to clear out.
Stylen, Murphy, Rippey, Sue, and Colton all on the field, along with Fagan. And they're going to take a shot, looking for Sue, but just behind her, and Chastain able to generate that turnover. So another possession squandered, but
yeah, an interesting choice throwing when the cutter was already so deep downfield.
yeah, desperation, tired legs type decision. And
might have been a high stall count, but I didn't think that far had gone.
I don't think it was either.
Maybe just wanting to wrap it up quickly, but that's almost always a poor decision.
Johnson on the far side pivoting. Mark from Murphy taking away a lot, forcing a low throw to Kafley. Kafley has Chastain. Another huck, and this one also out of reach. So both teams' will to end this point shown in their ability to attack quickly, but neither team really wants to grind. At least it seems that way. Of course, both of those were pretty open deep shots, but
yeah, just execution not there. Though it does set Molly all the way down, playing defense on the Raleigh end zone.
Never an easy way out. Points like this. Lyman starting things, and that throw behind Fagan and a turnover.
And the opportunity.
Yeah.
Molly here just outside their own end zone.
Notably, both teams out of timeouts, so if this is a turnover and this point continues, neither team has the ability to stop the play, and it won't be.
And if I am Molly, I'm doing exactly that. Isolating Manuela Cardenas right in the front of the end zone, where she just did a full triangle dancing circle and scored.
Yeah, and a head spike.
With the head spike to take half.
But I think you have a lot that you're happy about if you're Phoenix headed into the next half, and I think you have a lot that you can build on as well.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, Molly able to take that to punctuate, but the game not in their control.
Halftime coming at a score of 8-7. Phoenix trailing Molly Brown in the women's semifinal. Of course, this is the 2-3 game. The #1 seeds, Brute Squad, taking on Schwa in the other semifinal. That one will come to you on ESPN, I believe at the conclusion of this BFG mixtape game. We'll get you some score updates in the second half, but for Kelsey Percy, I'm Lucas Serio, and this is All2 World's live coverage of the Pro Championships. We'll be back in just a few. Stick around.
What would it look like if a competitive sport didn't mean a choice? Between beauty and brutality, style and steel. Between calling yourself out and clawing to stay in. What if there was a game that found balance? Between spirit and sport, agony and elation, like a disc dancing on air.
We now have evolved into a team sport of a game called Ultimate.
It stands by itself in that it is like no other game.
Between perfect passes and devastating drops. Like the balance we so desperately needed, we had no choice but to create it ourselves. Long live grit and grace. Long live Ultimate.
Hawk from Cardenas and brought in.
So we see the point block from Sadler.
Yoshida puts it up. I think Joe gets just a piece of that.
back into the backfield. Now airs out the forehand for Narayan. Wide goes right back to Stern, who saves it this time. Another layout from Nazarov. And she's going down the line to Lee, and she's able to hang on. Chased and saved by Sophie Holbert. That one popping up over her head. Now looking for Stavler in the end zone. She makes a great grab as well.
Opening up the deep space for fourth, and a beautifully placed throw from Normile. And another big forehand goes up from Normile. Carolyn Tornquist with lots of separation. And a guy's up the deep space, and it drops in. Tickum able to find room to put up a deep throw to Swafford. Ishmael immediately rocketing a forehand to the end zone for McKeon. They head spike it.
And also gets up over Johnson. Slam dunk after the rise.
Great layout block from Gina Tickum.
Big layup block, Anna Nazarov. Kane with the massive bid. Now Wang trying to bend around everybody and does. Chesky able to high point the rainbow. He's going to air out a big forehand. Lee looking for Wong in the end zone, and Wong gives chase and makes the grab. As Maggie Rubin goes up over Ishmael.
A double deep cut gets her a quick bookend score. Yoshida lines up a deep shot for Swafford.
Turning back upfield, finding Finney in the end zone for the score. Fury breaks to win.
The last 50 years have seen a lot of positive change
around a whole range of important issues.
And some things remain reassuringly unchanged.
Like the spirit of our game.
Ultimate is 50 years young.
And still a perfect circle.
Of fair play,
athletic pursuit,
and camaraderie.
In fact, Ultimate was a social network.
Before social networks even existed.
Respetamos nuestras diferencias.
And understand the value that they add.
The revolution of the disc in flight continues to prove
that there's nothing we can't achieve
when we
pull together.
Long live Ultimate.
Larga vida Ultimate.
Long live Ultimate.
Welcome back to the last live half of Ultimate from the Ultiworld live streaming services, streaming production of the Pro Championships, Boulder, Colorado. Luke Serio alongside Kelsey Percy. Kelsey stepping away for just a minute. She'll be back in just a second, but so far been an extremely, really like back and forth second half, and I think one that both teams are gonna have to go to the drawing board a bit, which is what we're seeing right now. And just been really impressed to see the amount of fight that Phoenix has had. Of course, Kelsey and I have talked a lot this weekend with the coaches and just with each other when we streamed them earlier about the number of injuries they come into this weekend. Of course, Coach David Allison, like we've said a number of times, telling us that they got to play through everyone. They got to play through the whole roster. They have to do their best to find a way to fight. And these are the kinds of wins and kinds of games you look back to when you get to sectionals and regionals and nationals, and you look back and you say, hey, you know, we played these games in these circumstances, you know, with this heat, this travel, this number of games, you know, we can play through and win and execute at a high level even when things are more in our favor, when more uncontrollables are going our way. So really excited to see who comes out and who does their best. We'll give you a chance to check out some of the scores. I'm sure a lot of you following along with the ESPN field as well, but if you're not, I'll tell you what we know. Of course, we streamed the other semifinal in the mixed division, Shame and Lawless. Of course, Shame taking that one 15-7. Now, BFG and Mixtape on the ESPN field. Mixtape up 11-5 on BFG. The two teams that met earlier this weekend, two teams that met at Smut, which was supposed to be in Spokane, then ended up being in Western Washington anyways. But yeah, lots of fun in the mixed division. I'm sure we'll be poking our heads over at the ESPN fields after this game and checking out what's going on over there.
Yeah, Mixtape with a very commanding lead, and I think the clear favorite for that game.
Probably for the whole division. Take a chance to poke through some Mixtape results, although because of the head-to-head, I don't think Mixtape won the pool. Shame knocking them off 14-12.
Wonder if that did end up being a point diff, because Shame dropping the game to Public Enemy.
I think both teams are 4-1. I think it goes to head-to-head. And if it's a head-to-head, I mean, it can't be a head-to-head tie. Everyone played everyone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Shame and Mixtape very interesting, because again, that similar like desire to play loose, desire not to like overthink, overstructure. Very athletic, a lot of strength, obviously playing to their women, which is what you need to succeed in the mixed division. Interesting too, this is the second time that Mixtape has played BFG today alone. The two teams met first round today. That's almost annoying.
Yeah, we can say the same thing about the last game, Lawless and Shane there as well, but Mixtape and BFG. Mixtape taking the earlier one, 15-13, so this game seemed like it's not quite that close. Now, we promised you at the beginning of the broadcast we'd bring you the score for the first time. These two teams met this game. Of course, Molly Brown finishing second in the pool, Phoenix finishing third. And here, sideline action, it seems like Phoenix coming out in an early type of defensive set. Peruka out there, along with Mary Rippey, all at the front of that zone. Oh, and contact on the far side. Manu swinging back to the middle of the field. Swafford, and then all the way around to Chastain. Mary Rippey getting that assignment. So much experience for a young player, but of course, David Allison speaking so highly of Mary Rippey, saying she's one of the most athletic defenders he's ever coached. And now Johnston in the end zone. And Molly Brown start this half with an easy hold. So we were wrong. Molly Brown started this half on offense, and they were able to convert, and now they're up 2-0. Or they're up by 2, up 9-7.
Yeah, and the Rippey-Chastain matchup is one that I really like. Again, I think the athleticism of Chastain plus the experience and just the overall commitment from Rippey makes it a very exciting one. Some definitely a little bit more creative using the angles on those throws for Molly, but able to punch it in.
So 15-11 was the score the first time these two teams met second round yesterday.
Correct.
And so feels like we're on track for a game closer than that, but we almost thought halftime cap might come into play. It feels like this game probably isn't going to make it all the way to 15.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and one of the big differences between the last game they played was that Molly almost exclusively forced Radiance's offense to bear the brunt of the long trading back and forth points, where I'd say this game, both offenses have really had to fight through some long multi-turn points.
Right. Yeah, and it's not really, we talked about it, right? It's like, doesn't matter whether you start the point on O or D, it just matters if you score and get that energy from those long points. Now, Phoenix's offense back out on the field. Number of familiar faces on that line. Spread stack. Meisner in the backfield with Lyman. And Earhart, long gainer against Womoth, right in front of us. Sue Eater getting that matchup now. And into the end zone, almost into the end zone. Sideline cheers confused me for a second, and it looked like she was.
Yeah, really liking the Eater and
now they
Sue
are.
matchup.
We talked about that, right? Rachel Eater was marking
Youngst.
Ellie Youngst earlier in the game, and this time switching on to Sue, who's really been a weapon for Phoenix so far, but it's Meisner in the end zone, and feels like Phoenix able to hold just as easily.
I will say, though, I think Eater did a good job of effectively taking Youngst out of the play. Sue, who has scored 3 times now, at least 2 off of assist from Revere. And so definitely someone who's been very productive, also in getting laid in the stall count resets. So yeah, again, adjustments very necessary in the second half, and going to see which team is able to really dial in and cause the other team more grief.
That is a way to look at it. But this is very much a one-score game, right? Any time that if Phoenix can keep holding and Molly keeps holding, anytime Phoenix gets a break, they'll be able to force the issue and tie it up, and then from there it's anyone's game. I mean, we haven't got a chance to have anything super close on the stream so far. Had some that have almost gone the distance, but none just quite. And I wouldn't be upset if our last game went to you.
Yeah, we've definitely watched a couple. There was the Pony Rhino showdown, and then got to see a little bit of the Schwa Nemesis that went to ultimate point as well.
Yeah.
But none of those ones, I think, that we were filming at that point.
Filmed both those games, I believe. Oh, not the Nemesis Schwa one.
Yep.
I thought you were talking about the Nemesis Phoenix game on the field behind us from earlier this morning. That one is filmed. But yeah, we did film the Pony Rhino game, and pretty controversial call on Universe Point. I won't give any spoilers. If you're an Ultimate World subscriber, let you watch that one when it comes out.
Let's just say the in or out may have featured.
Manuela coming under. Murphy getting that matchup. Murphy really the energy spot for Phoenix so far in this game. Manuela looking at Chastain, but Chastain pointing to Johnston, and Johnston able to shake free, and now Swafford.
Yeah, I think Chastain wanting to keep the disc in the middle of the field, allowing her that space to cut, leading.
Cafely, and that one into the end zone, so easy does it. Molly Brown able to hold for the second straight point, and you go back up by 2, 10-8.
Ooh, and just Chastain calling that. Say, nope, center it. Okay, now I get the disc. And then sending it out to space for Picathley.
Yeah, wanting to operate more from a downfield position, and one that she's really been successful from.
Picathley is just so dangerous in space. Legs for days.
Chastain's backhand is unreal. It doesn't really matter where she is in the field. It feels like it's something that can really threaten teams.
Yeah, something I really enjoyed out of that shame game we just broadcast also was Pesh. You know, him extending and then ripping the full field backhand.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's within Picathley's realm as well, of just watching her move the mark, watching her release points, that she's able to generate so much power extended so far outside of her body.
Really saw that against Schwa when played this morning, and I think, you know, there was a point sort of early in that second half in that Schwa game where it felt like Molly just kind of clicked and their D-line started clashing in on the break chances they got, and they pulled away. So interesting to see if that's the same type deal here. Jackson a pull. And this time Sue back to receive. First time I think we've seen her do that this game. And she'll send it to Lyman.
And then streaking downfield, they may be attacking her from that handle spot, but no throw, no go.
Yeah, Ives enough to disrupt that cut, but now Sue turning that turning that deep into an under. She's got Revere taking off. She thought about it for a second, but Earhart and Meisner up line, and a poach there. Meisner unfazed, and Earhart able to capitalize on her defender playing off her, and Phoenix will score as well. So 2-2 second half, all holds so far, and pretty even game headed into the early bits of the second half.
So I'll say I think Raleigh has done such a good job when attacking that front cone. They're not just attacking the cone, they're attacking the 7 space away from it. And they have done that really, really consistently. I would not be at all surprised if that's something that they practice and drill so that their throwers know to set up that next throw.
It feels like a theme, right? Like the kind of the counter cutting is such a integral part of the triangle scene. It feels like that players really well understand. Somebody goes up line, the mark is going to shift, it's going to create a chance for me to go around. If players roll, I'm going to make a 7 cut and come back into the soft space that you can throw an inside to. And just every team I've watched from North Carolina is really, really good at that, really efficient in the red zone. And it makes total sense, right? If you want to win games, you're going to have to win in the red zone, and you're going to have to score when you get this close to the end zone. And Phoenix is just another team that does that really, really well.
No, and when they're finding themselves in the position, again, a yard from the cone, inches from the end zone line itself, you don't have a lot of room if that first look doesn't go. You have to almost turn around and look to your reset, and it makes it much easier on the defense because the sideline itself is basically your other defender. They're already taking that much away.
Right.
So yeah, the effectiveness of being able to kind of one and done. Interesting choice.
Yeah, hammer pull there, roll out on the near side. So Molly Brown will sort of confusedly march down, maybe, and get set about half field.
So maybe it's Raleigh's chance to pull a trap set here.
Yeah, you see a few of their zone players back out there. Peruka. Here in Grace Connerly. And Fagan as well. Long blade towards Kawabata. Colton coming towards it. Observer ruled not in, and one more throw should do it. It will.
Okay, so my frustration with that Raleigh set is I think if you're going to do that, if you're going to give a team the short field, I think you push them backward. I don't think you set the defender all the way back in that reset space, and I don't think you overbait that front cone the way they did. Molly too good, single throw execution. Personal opinion, strong opinion, but personal opinion.
Definitely, yeah. When you run a zone set for one of the teams that you coach, I mean, where are the places on the field that you're trying to force turnovers?
We've talked, hopefully not ad nauseum at this point, but definitely extensively about the limited amount that a defense can take away, and the importance, I almost think, of giving offense an avenue and making it the one that you want them to go through, the controllable space. So again, it really felt like with that offense that they were trying to take too much away, and ended up instead the one shot to goal.
Right. I guess I don't know if I agree with your point that I don't know if that's what Phoenix was giving up. I think Molly just took it, and it's worked out for him. But I mean, again, whether or not they meant to give it up, it was given up enough that they could throw it. So
yeah, well, and within the short distance, that blading throw very viable. Molly has the throws; they've used them. So yeah, definitely something I'll go back and maybe re-critique myself. But opinion out there.
I hear what you're saying.
A little bit of a collision on field. So an interesting choice, Valeria on Youngst. Like that speed matchup.
Eder still taking on Sue. Upline for Meisner. So patient. I think a lot of handlers that aren't Bridget Meisner would have taken a few more shots in power position by now, but she really only shoots when she's got a lane to. And there are some handlers, right, that you could feel this pressure, you get open up line, you're like, I gotta do something, I gotta do something, I gotta do something, but none of that. Keela Strick. I think I said that name wrong a lot yesterday, so Phoenix, when you're watching this back, I apologize. And they'll find Revere in the end zone. Yeah.
Is that her first one on the board today?
I think she has an assist to add to it as well, but maybe her first goal. I'm sure not, at least of this stream. Feels like she has at least one in the first half. But you were noting earlier, you felt like Molly Brown was intentionally forcing her under. So could be his first, could be her first, excuse me.
I think my comment going out of their game is that I feel, Revere is someone who could definitely be utilized more. And so again, some of that may be strategic choice resulting from how Molly is playing her. But I do feel like they're putting some of their more, powerful matchups on other players. So it might just be a, new to the area chemistry thing, not having had as many reps. And I believe to your point, are the power throwers, when you have, Jesse Bolden, who are some of the other throwers coming out of mixtape, but just people that can put it out to space. I haven't seen her just open up on a deep cut. And some of that may be just not quite getting the power positions.
Still figuring out her teammates as well. Yeah. Different style of ultimate in Seattle in the triangle.
Yeah, so about timing.
Right. For Phoenix, though, I mean, their coach telling our reporter, Isabel Cruz, that a semifinal appearance was a goal that they had this weekend, and they've achieved that. I think a lot of people in and around this program are probably pretty excited with how they performed, even if this game doesn't go their way. And I don't say that to assume that it won't, because right now it's pretty darn close.
Yeah, 11-10. They're right here in it. This game could go either way.
Hammer from Johnston, caught by Wynn. She's been so solid for them. And now she's going to shoot to the end zone, and Colton almost got there. Probably one that Colton will watch back and said she should have bid on, because kind of Frisbee feels like she usually breaks up in the path. But that throw finding Kawabata in the end zone from Wynn. So
yeah, Wynn just found the lane and lasered the throw in there. Almost a calm, God, felt too easy almost. Because nothing, just Raleigh had them locked up. Raleigh had it. But, okay, so the hammer over the top.
Yep.
That's a 2-throw score.
And this, whatever the sideline trap set is, it just isn't really working. It just hasn't.
Okay, so you're pulling to my side here.
Yeah, I just think what I was disagreeing with earlier wasn't your point that it didn't work. I just thought that what you were saying, which is that they were giving up kind of that like same third. I didn't know necessarily that's what they were looking at either, but I guess it is, right, if you're taking away reset space.
Yeah, again, I just think that with Molly, who loves to look downfield, who loves the angled shot, who has the execution, both on the break side and the force, you know, I think that's less of a risk for them. I think you force them backwards. But, you know, again, they were successful. They gummed it up. Molly had to go over the top. But then are they maybe not following off as quickly because that hammer hung up in the lanes? What could they have done to make that immediate next scoring throw non-viable? What adjustments could they have made? How could they have tightened up that space?
It's a great point. Long crossfield throw, dangerous, but really no one was in the area to disrupt it. Ellie Young still move this along to Katie Bacchus. And now Lyman, low throw, bailed out by Meisner. Back to Lyman. And they'll go to the break side for Revere. So
Revere with the second score.
Yeah, starting to turn on the second half as they keep this game within 2.
Yeah, and much more efficient, crisp movement from Raleigh there. Really liked what I saw. Getting another look at this. Again, just moving, attacking both sides of the field. The backhand out to space, and there's Revere. Plenty of room. Steps on her defender.
Break side continuation cutting so effective. Something that really is kind of how you crack a vertical stack and make a vertical stack work, right? I mean, teams play defense in assumption that your offense is going to function a certain way. So it's my mark does this, people downfield do this. And this is obviously like very low level ultimate IQ point, but just it's one of those things that is a fundamental that just feels like it's always going to work out if you're able to execute on it the right way.
Well, and as a thrower, one of my favorite all-time things is to have the disc in my hands, to be relatively centered on the field, and to have a really dynamic, explosive cutter in a one-on-one matchup at the front of the end zone. And just to let them work, knowing that I can, you know, put the disc out to space on either side, I just have to wait for them to grind out that separation.
Right.
Couple quick moves, wait for the defender to commit just a little bit too much one way, we're in business.
And much easier, too, for throwers at this level, perhaps, to break the mark than it is for cutters to get open on really good defenders.
Mm-hmm.
This pull, helixing back in bounds.
And Manuela back to receive it. Interesting.
Yeah. Kind of a spread stack look as well. Have Pacafely come under for Johnston, have Manuela take off. But that initial option didn't work, so now the stack will sort of flood into a horizontal, and everything getting started for Molly Brown.
Man, Manuela has threatened that backhand with the fake a couple of times, and gosh, I'd love to see her release it at some point.
Swafford starting a little more further downfield at this point. And Johnston coming across.
Showing good patience on that reset throw.
Pacafely thought about stepping around Fagan, but the mark was too good, and inside will find Swafford, and one more throw will put Molly Brown in the end zone. A little awkward of a catch, but made it work out no matter, and Molly Brown back up by 2.
Yeah, just trying to roll through thoughts on this game of what we're seeing. We are really seeing.
She wanted Revere going to float out to Youngst, who was unmarked. And wow. Phoenix survives. Excellent awareness from Claire Revere.
Great vision, exactly the point I was about to make. And again, beautiful touch. Her flicks have just shown such precision. Oh man, and Molly there with the pressure. They're putting it on. And Raleigh just able to open up within one.
I mean, it sounds like a dumb point because a lot of things I say sound dumb, but it feels like a semifinal, right? Just like, especially more so perhaps in the second half than the first half.
Absolutely.
Teams have ramped up a level and to another point where it feels like these teams are now executing at a higher level. They're applying more pressure on defense, and they're also answering the pressure of the team they're playing against. It's been really fun.
Oh, I agree entirely. Yeah, overall, loving the level of ultimate that we are seeing right now, the level of energy picking up. Both of these teams just completely bought in to finishing out this game 100%. You know, and something that haven't made this point yet today, but I do wonder is as we're getting into these last really crucial points, will that energy you were talking about from the sideline presence, Molly, who just has more numbers here, will that be more of a factor? You know, the voices, the communication on the field, maybe communication from the sideline to the marks, will that be a factor?
And a lot of props, too, to the number of Phoenix players that traveled this weekend despite their injuries. I mean, we see a few players on the sidelines from Molly Brown that are injured as well that we knew about coming into this tournament. But it's just like, it's not inexpensive to fly. And at the same time, it's a long way from North Carolina. So if you're someone that, despite not being able to play, still choosing to spend your holiday weekend this way, props to you as a teammate and a leader on your team. And I think it might pay dividends for Phoenix if they're able to pull this one off. Meanwhile, Manuela looking for Chastain. That blade is perfect. Wow.
So 2 plays there for Manuela. One, the athletic, the throw that went just a little bit high. She went up, attacked it, and then the precision blade to Chastain crossfield.
Yeah, this is a Valeria throw. This is sick as well. I mean, it just...
Don't even say Valeria. This is a Cardenas throw.
That's true. Something we've seen Valeria throw earlier today, I should say. I'll qualify it that way.
But we've also seen from Manuela in past years. Both very capable.
100%. 100%. And it seems like with time cap, that'll be the end of it. So sorry, guys, we couldn't punch up that ending more for you. But again, Molly Brown just executing, able to close out on this one. 14-12 is your final score. So
another
Molly
look
Brown,
at this throw right here to Chastain.
Yeah.
Just right in that back corner. Well, thanks for sticking with us through that. What a fantastic semifinal. 14-12, Molly Brown Radiance. I do think we have an end of game interview that we're going to be going to here in just a moment. So hopefully we can pull there, but wow. Again, fantastic semifinal. Any takeaway thoughts there?
Well, just, you know, I'd really like David Allison talking to us before the tournament and saying something we've said a number of times, probably overstated, but we said, right, he's most interested in seeing Raleigh play the way he wanted them to play. And I would just love at some point to hear back from him and see if it was successful, because if this is the team that he wants Raleigh to be and they're short on numbers and maybe short on legs and missing some players for injury, I mean, if they execute at that level, if they play that level of offense and that level of defense.
Contender.
Right, exactly.
All the way for me.
So I think it's, you know, a potential, you could say, a semis team in the women's division when we get to San Diego in October, depending upon who's back, who's healthy, and if they can translate these reps into sectionals and regionals.
Yeah, and definitely some powerhouse teams that are not present here.
Yep.
Not seeing Riot, kind of a hometown for me, Atlanta Ozone, definitely a team that has some athletes that are always in the hunt.
Fury not here, Scandal not playing this
as
year.
well.
And then Sixers, I mean, not going to make the trip, nor is traffic, so your Canadian team's out of the mix completely, so at least 2 of your 16 gone right there. We're going to transition over to an interview. Isabel Cruz on the sideline with Manuel Cardenas. Sorry, in just a few minutes.
Yeah, so exciting for us here, getting to maybe pick her brain. Very much a factor, and someone who had a huge impact, particularly in that second half in terms of execution, and really making the plays, but also as an initiation player. I felt like she was so effective at getting Molly's offense going.
So we'll send it over that way now. Cruz there on the sideline with Manuela. Excited to hear her thoughts. Stay with us. just a second. We'll have that
Hi,
for you.
this is Isabel
Here it is.
Cruz, still here reporting with Ultiworld after a really great matchup between Molly Brown and Phoenix. I'm here with Manuela Cardenas, who is going to tell us a little bit about her experience with the game. Tell me, how did this matchup feel on day 2 after seeing them on day 1?
Okay, yeah, definitely like so hard, and they're a great team. And then we knew like we were coming here, they were going to be a really good team. It's getting harder because like our legs, and it's our first tournament. But it was nice. It was nice to play like a high level even we're so tired. I probably guess that they're also super tired. But yeah, I mean, this is a good first tournament to go to nationals.
Totally. I think that that's such an important perspective, and something I'm personally curious about. How is it playing with your sister on this team?
That's so, I mean, it's so nice because it's like, Molly Brown is like such a great space that we have. And I was like, I would love if you can get like the opportunity to play with us. And actually that happened like the last minute. Like she was playing in the PUL, and we bought her flight even like Sunday to come here at Tuesday after the PUL. And it's so nice, you know, like here is like being like a little bit different for her, like for sure. But she loves it. She is in love with the team too, which is nice.
Amazing. How are you feeling going into tomorrow?
Okay, definitely we're tired, and we gotta go and take some rest. So nice to match now. I don't know if we're gonna be with the final, but super excited for that. And then it's like it's gonna be a good game through nationals, and starting to prepare ourselves for nationals.
Thank you so much for your time with me. Muchas gracias. Buen juego.
Mi mamá y mi papá.
I love that. A salutation to her mom and her dad. And that finishes out here for our interviews.
So thank you again for one final time. Ultiworld's live coverage of the Pro Championships for the last time this weekend. We'll sign off in just a second, but Kelsey obviously treated to just a number of really great high-level games, and a lot of teams that we're excited to see not only in the finals tomorrow, Molly Brown being one of those, but also teams we're excited to see in the postseasons and as the season goes on. Any closing thoughts for the weekend? Anything that you really look forward to coming up with October and nationals?
Well, unfortunately, we'll all be watching all of those on film myself. But, man, just super impressed with the level of play, especially knowing how many of these teams have not had a lot of reps coming in. And you can just see, for so many teams, the joy of being able to play again, being able to come together out here, beautiful fields, beautiful weather. But something that you mentioned also was just the parity across divisions of not just a couple really high-level teams, but multiple in each division, really able to show some strength and execution. Yeah, some of these gorgeous highlights, Picaithley again, all in space. But yeah, super excited and thankful for the opportunity to be out here.
Yeah, Kelsey, I'm glad I had one last game. I know we thought that you'd be on a flight right now, or at least on your way to one. Eventually you will make way back to the Twin Cities. But again, thanks for coming out this weekend. Thanks for being with us on the stream. This has really been a blast for Kelsey Percy, Lucas Serio, Aiden Shapiro, Layton, Chris Casella, Isabel Cruz, and everyone we have at Ultiworld. We thank you for tuning along. We hope you tune in to semifinals and more coverage on ESPN later this weekend. This has been the Pro Championships.